Well, hello again. This is Blanca with Furniture with Imagination. And today I'm collaborating with Amy Howard at home, and I'm going to show you how I successfully been using lime wax. This is one of my favorite products because it creates fantastic effects on different surfaces, pieces. And basically, you can use it to highlight, you can use it to change the color of paint, you can use it on one-step paint, you can use it on raw wood, you can even use it on your middle paints. And it creates these beautiful highlighting effects or changes the color. Okay, so I'm also going to be using one-step paint today, and I'm going to be using this beautiful color which is called Woodman is Hard to Find, which is kind of like a graphite color, and I'm going to be using it on this beautiful mirror that I have, that has a lot of detail. And this is could be the perfect surface to really show you the difference between liming wax and resin wax, and how I use liming wax as opposed to the resin wax. Okay, so I already cleaned the surface with clean slate. It was very dirty. All the grease and everything is being removed, and the mirror is ready for painting now. Okay, so I'm gonna do a close-up, and we're gonna be painting the mirror first, and then we're going to be applying the cerusine wax. Okay, before I start that, don't forget to tag 3 friends for you to have the opportunity to have some lime and wax. We're giving this away today, and yeah, tell me from where you're watching, and ask me your questions. I always go back and answer all of your questions. Okay, so thank you for watching, and let's get going. Okay, so we're going to start painting with this beautiful color I chose, which is some sort of graphite color. It's called A Good Man is Hard to Find. And I wanted to use the contrast between the dark color and my liming wax. It's going to look really beautiful. I also chose this wedge brush, and as you can see, I'm applying a lot of paint, and I am just slapping it there in all kinds of directions. And the purpose for that is so I have some texture on the paint when it dries, and then the wax is gonna get trapped on that in that texture, and it's gonna look even more beautiful. Okay, it's gonna leave those impressions, like a little bit more white in some areas with this rosin wax, and some darker areas. That is really the way you want to go with the paint whenever you want to do wax on top of the paint. Okay, I chose this brush. Is perfect for this project. This is actually my 2.5 inch wedge brush from Amy Howard at home, because it has long bristles, and it just goes very easily into the carved areas, so I don't struggle trying to get the paint in there. So it really helps you with the application, and I definitely use this project whenever I have a lot of detail or little areas I go into. Okay, but it's pretty simple. Basically, we want to do 2 coats of paint. This is the first one, obviously. I'm going to let it dry, and I'm going to do another coat of paint. With any paint, especially with this paint, I always do 2 coats of paint. Remember, this is one-step paint. It's not one coat of paint, so to speak. So for the perfect coverage, for the perfect deepness of the paint, you always want to do 2 coats at least. You can do another one depending, but I almost never have to do a 3rd coat of paint. This paint has an incredible deepness, and is the coverage is just wonderful. Okay, so we're almost there with the mirror. We just want to cover the entire thing. The beauty of this is that I don't have to do a primer before putting the paint, and the paint sticks to anything. This is kind of like the paint is like really kind of weird. Looks like definitely it's oil paint. And as you see, I only had to clean it with clean slate first, and it was ready for application. I don't have to do primer. I don't have to sand it. I don't have to strip it. which is the beauty of this and really reduces the time for any project that you have to do. Okay, so I'm just gonna wrap up here the paint. I'm gonna let it dry, and then I'm gonna do a second coat of paint, and that's it. Okay, for the next part, we're gonna be using our pack of Cerusing Wax cheap brush from Amy Howard at Home, which are perfect. And I'm gonna let you know a little secret. I'm gonna be using clean slate. I'll tell you how. And we're also gonna be using some paper towels. So you take your puck and you wet your brush, not completely saturated, but just a tiny little bit in your clean slate. And then you take your wax from your puck, and that gives you the perfect consistency to apply the wax, and it just spreads perfectly. That's a little secret. So as you see, I'm applying it not in excess, but we are going to be covering the entire surface of the mirror. Now, I also apply the paint in all directions with the whole purpose of obtaining some texture in the paint. So that texture helps you to trap the wax more, and then you're going to be getting that depth. If you can see, you have different shades of white in there, and that is because of all the texture that we created with the One Step paint. So you just basically go not very hard, applying your wax very lightly in all kinds of directions. Don't just go in one direction, but you can apply it in all different directions. You constantly have to be moving your wrist, and as you can see, definitely the higher areas, the peaks, are going to be using a little bit more, but you just want to make sure that you cover the entire surface of the mirror. And you see, I'm actually going all kinds of directions, like crisscrossing constantly. Your wrist has to be moving constantly, so you can reach every little area, but you don't apply it just in one direction, because you want that depth and that difference in colors per se, difference in shades, and that's how you obtain it. I'm touching the wax that we just applied about 15 minutes ago to make sure that it came to that, meaning is kind of like drying. And this is the perfect point to apply a second pass of wax with a dry brush. So you saturate your brush again, and look at how I'm applying, very lightly, feathering way, just on the high points. Because what I want to achieve is different shades, like whiter on the high points, darker on the low points. And that difference between white and gray and dark and white, which is basically beautiful. It looks antiqued. So that's what we're going to be doing in all the high points. And at this point, I want to actually tell you why I used the liming wax as opposed to the cerusing wax. The liming wax is harder, so it's easier to apply on the high points, and the wax stays there. Also, when there's texture on the paint, it gets trapped in there. The cerusing wax is more liquid, so actually it applies more evenly. And yes, it changes the color of the paint, and it changes the color of the raw wood if you're using it in raw wood, but it's more evenly. This one, actually, you can create those beautiful highlights and lowlights that I really love. So that's basically it. I'm just going for the high points and just giving the final touches as you want it, and we're gonna let it dry, and it's probably gonna be fully cured in about a couple of days. Okay, so we're gonna let it dry, and I'm gonna show you the final product. You can buff it at this point if you like, for a little bit of sheen. Okay, so that's our mirror with all the wax applied. I'm gonna do a little close up so you can actually see how beautiful it looks. And that's pretty much all. I hope you enjoyed the project. Don't forget to tag 3 friends. Leave me your comments or questions and I'll be happy to answer for you. I hope you like it and I see you in my next video.